What's going on, guys? Here in this video I'm going to be doing another performance update or upgrade to the S2000. Now I'm not a big how should I say believer that an intake will substantially upgrade the performance of your engine. However, there's no question about it that intakes do make your engine bay look a little bit more cleaner, more crisp looking, a little bit nicer aesthetically. So with that being said, since I'm still in the first phase of my build, I am going to be installing an intake onto the S2000 just to make the engine bay look a little bit cleaner, because the factory airbox just makes it look all bulky and everything like that. And you know, I am trying to make the car look nicer as well. So with that being said, let's get over to the car and get this installed. Alright, so first things first, you want to disconnect your negative battery terminal to your vehicle. Whenever you're working with anything electrical with your car, it's always very important to disconnect your negative battery terminal, because the last thing you need is for there to be a short of anything and, you know, damage whatever components you're working with. Or in worst case scenario, you know, damage your ECU, because that's always a possibility with the short. So definitely, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry and just unplug your negative battery terminal before working with anything electrical. Alright, next up, on your factory airbox, there's going to be these little clips right here. There's 6 in total, all around the factory airbox. And all you want to do is completely take all of them off so that you can take this cover off. And by doing that, all you got to do is put your finger on the clip and then just unclip it, and then it comes off. And do this repeatedly to every single one of them, and your airbox would come off. Next up, you want to come over here, right out of the throttle body where your intake tube begins. You see this this hose right here, and basically this is your crankcase vent hardline. So you just want to basically pinch it. If it's like really seized in there, you can always use some pliers or something, and then just pull it out of the way. And while you're here as well, come over here to this over here. This is your air temperature sensor for your intake. This is very important, so clip it and then just unplug it. And while you're at it, over here there's this little thing holding the actual wire there. Make sure you take it out of there as well and just move it out of the way. If for some reason mine didn't have the clamp that goes on to the hose, but if it does, just take it off. I'm pretty sure somebody, you know, previously installed an intake or something like that and didn't put the hose clamp back on. So in this case, it just makes it a little bit easier for me to remove mine. So once you remove the hose clamp, your intake tube and filter will be able to come out easily. And there you go. To remove the bottom part of your airbox, there's 3 specific bolts that you're gonna need to remove. One of them is right here. It's this one right in there. The next one is right in here. I'm not sure if you can see it. And then the last one is over here. So in order to get to all of this, I recommend you using a ratchet, an extension, and of course your 10mm socket. Simply because to get into these like specific ones over here, you're gonna need a little bit of a longer reach to them. And then just put it on there and then remove it. Once you remove the 3 bolts, your bottom half of the airbox will literally just come out. So just reach in and grab it out and then just put it out of the way. So now that your intake, your factory airbox I should say, is completely removed, now it's time to prep for the installation of the intake. So first things first, on the other half of your crankcase vent hardline, just remove it off of the valve cover and then just set that aside. Next up, right next to your valve cover and your head, there's this this coolant hose that you want to remove. You want to remove it from there and from the throttle body, so right in there. So we're basically going to completely disassemble or take apart this hose. So with that, all you gotta do is unclip this, and there might be a little bit of dripping of coolant, so be prepared for that. So after that, you might have to wiggle it and crack it, break it open, and then just pull your hose off. Just a note really fast before I continue. It is pretty obvious that somebody had already removed some of the hoses and stuff like that. For one, it was very easy to remove some of these hoses. Normally, by the time you get a lot of mileage into your vehicle, your hoses start to get a little bit more difficult to remove. These were pretty easy to remove. But another reason is because I already know somebody had installed an intake before, because a lot of the hoses that are supposed to be removed are not on there anymore. So somebody had already did the bypassing and all that stuff of the factory hoses. So it's not a big deal to me. To be honest, it's actually a little bit better, makes the installation a little bit easier. So let's continue. Alright, so next up, where you remove the hose that connects to your throttle body, you want to grab your hose that K&N provided. It's a 1/4 reinforced hose fitting that goes from on the intake manifold to the throttle body, basically. So it's right here. This is the part that connects to your intake manifold, and this part right here connects to your throttle body. So one thing too that you want to make sure you don't forget is that you put on your clamps back on there, your hose fittings, so that it actually stays. So let's get to that. Next up, we're gonna start prepping the actual installation of the intake. So you're gonna need your saddle bracket, which is this thing right here, an L bracket that's gonna basically just attach to this thing. This little bushing, you can tell it's the right one because it concaves a little bit to the little curve on this right here. If you can see clearly, it goes down right there. And of course, you're gonna need one of the screws, one of the nuts, and one of the little washers. And the idea to this is pretty simple. I'm gonna put this right here. The idea to this is pretty simple. You want to put this thing right in there, and then your bracket, and then of course you put your hardware in. So basically this is how it's gonna sit. You can see the L bracket right here, the nut, one of the washers that's in there, the fitting or the bushing, and then of course everything's attached. So now all you got to do is just tighten it, and then it should be good to go. Next up, you want to grab your longer L bracket and then your box where the heat shield that your intake is going to sit in, and basically you just want to grab it and put it on here, and then obviously secure it with some nuts, bolts, and washers. And that is the way it's supposed to look like. Now, something to note, you don't want to tighten it really hard yet, simply because you might have to adjust it a little bit once it actually goes onto your vehicle, but that's what it's supposed to look like. And now that that's on, you want to come to this side, and that bracket that you just built with your saddle clamp and your little small one, you're gonna basically attach it this way on your heat shield, so that this is where your intake's actually going to be sitting on. And there you go. Same concept as this bracket over here. You don't want to super tighten it just yet, simply because there might be some slight adjustments later, but so don't forget to tighten it once you're finished. Alright, so next up you want to grab this hose that K&N supplies you, and you're going to put it all the way around the outside of your airbox. This is basically gonna create a seal and stuff from when your hood closes and everything, so that heat doesn't come up. Yeah, so all you want to do is just put it all over here and all the way down to the bottom over here as well. So it shouldn't be too difficult. Just make sure you put it on there because it is very important. And the way you do that is pretty simple. You just slide the little piece of metal, the side of the metal, in through these cracks all the way around. Now, if it's too long, you might have to cut it. I know I had to cut a little bit on my K&N intake that I put in on my Impala SS, but this one seems pretty long, so it shouldn't. I might have to cut, but I'm not entirely sure. All right, so right here you can see it coming around, It's looking in nice. I'm gonna have to cut it right here because it's gonna be doing this weird angle. So I'm gonna cut it right about there, and then I'm gonna continue doing it on this flat end over here. All right, and that's what it should be looking like, at least somewhat. Now that it's on there, as you can see, this is where I cut because it did this weird angle. So then I continued over here. All right, now you want to grab your other L bracket and then put it where your factory clamp goes, where you removed one of the bolts before, and you want to face it kind of to where it curves away from it, as you can see here, because your airbox is going to be sitting, your new airbox is going to be sitting right here. So you just want to tighten it down and you're good to go. All right, so this is where you are going to install your heat shield airbox thing that you had prepped before installation. So you just want to put it in there and then start with the bolting process. All right, so as you can see, I already started bolting it on. You're gonna have to come through the back on this side and then reach in to be able to do this. But there is a secondary one that you need to do. I'll tell you why I haven't done that one just yet. And I already started bolting it on this side too, right there where the factory one goes to begin with. But the reason I didn't do that one yet, I am going to, but it's kind of weird because they didn't give me the normal bolts. They gave me one with kind of like a little bit of a flared end right here, if you can see. I'm still gonna use it. It should still be should still work just fine. But yeah, so oh well, let's just get to tightening it so we can finish this installation. All right, now you want to grab this silicone bubbled fit part right here, and it's going to go to the side where it actually connects to your intake manifold. Don't forget to put your little hose clamp in there, because it will fall off if you don't put it on there. So make sure you put it on this side, and then you grab the other hose clamp, and then so that you can put it on there and install it on this side that actually goes into your intake, not to your intake manifold, to your throttle body, excuse me. So once you do that, before you actually put it into the car, there is something else that you're gonna need to do, so stay with me. All right, now you're gonna have to get your stock, intake tube and filter, and this little thing where your air temperature sensor came with, you want to remove it, and then on this, since on the K&N one, since it doesn't actually have a location to put it in, you want to put it back onto your, or put this into your car and find out where exactly you want to mount the new air temperature sensor. I'm going to put it somewhere closer to the bottom, and as you can see, there might be a little, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little cut mark or a little scratch that I put on there, and that's where I'm going to drill to 5/8 with my step drill. So once you do that, you want to get a little grommet that K&N sends you, put it on there, and then put your new or your factory sensor in, and after that you're almost done. All right, as you can see, I already removed the factory air temperature sensor. The grommet is right here. That's going to go into this hole that I just drilled with my step drill. So once you put it in there, you're going to put it like that in the hole, and then this is going to go inside it like this. And then once you're done, you're ready to start actually installing the actual intake, and you are almost in the clear. And there you go. It's now installed. Now it's ready to start getting put into the car. All right, now you do not want to forget to put your clamp on this side for the hose that's going to come on this side, and of course the other side, you just want to slide this in, and then once it's in, you want to tighten this so that it doesn't go anywhere. All right, to put the hose clamp on the saddle for the tube, you might need another set of hands, as I did, to push or close the clamp, or the to close the saddle. While you close this, it is really difficult. So like I said, you might need another set of hands, but if you're stronger than me, maybe not. But yeah. So now all I gotta do is tighten it, and almost done. All right, so my car does not have an air ejection pump that's gonna go right here. So K&N gives you a cap for it, and of course another hose clamp. So basically just put it on there and then just clamp it together so that it doesn't, create suction or vacuum from nothing. All right, while you're here, you might as well just reconnect your air temperature sensor on what you did when you drilled and everything. And I am going to be zip tying this somewhere. All right, now you want to put on the 1/2-inch pipe or hose that K&N supplies onto the intake and onto the actual, and onto the crank onto the valve cover, excuse me, just like that. Now you want to grab this thing right here that has this little concave section on the inside. Some people call them velocity stacks, but it is rubber, so I don't think it's going to be super effective, but what would I know? I'm not an engineer of these intakes. So now you want to grab this and put it onto the intake, just like that. Now the actual filter itself, and put it on and then tighten it. And there you go, your intake made by K&N is installed. Just for you know, giggles, I put the K&N sticker that they gave me. So there you guys have it. That's the installation of the K&N intake for the Honda S2000. It's a very simple and straightforward installation. The only thing, if anything, that's hard about it is the fact that you have to drill your own hole into the K&N tube. And that's for the simple case of installing your air temperature sensor back in. And if you don't do that, your car will still run just fine. However, you will be throwing a code and you'll have that annoying check engine light on your vehicle. Just so you guys know, this is a temporary thing. It might be an extended temporary thing. That's why I wanted something to put in the meantime, for visual reasons. I don't consider this a performance upgrade by any means. What I do consider it is a nice aesthetic thing, and it also sounds very nice as well. So the reason why this is a temporary thing is because I am planning on supercharging it, and when you supercharge a vehicle, your intake gets replaced by the supercharger. And you know, the supercharger piping that goes into your intake manifold. So when I do that, then this intake will come out, and of course the supercharger will go in. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you like the intake, definitely leave that in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and till next time.